Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Wanted to talk to you today about an agreement that has been made from or within the VA, and that is with an organization called AFGE. AFGE, from my understanding, it's a union, so I don't know exactly what it stands for, but let's read into it and see if we can dig out any information on this. So here on the headline it says, from the Office of Public and Intergovernmental Affairs, VA and AFGE reach tentative agreement to better serve veterans and support VA employees. This came out April 7th, so yesterday. And again, the headline, it just repeats itself, and we'll just go ahead and dive into it. So here it says, today, VA reached a tentative agreement with the American Federation of Government Employees. There you go, AFGE. The union that represents more than 291,000 Department of Veterans Affairs employees on a master bargaining agreement. So that's the agreement that the union has with the VA, so for all of the employees. So they'll negotiate things like salary, time off, other benefits that they may have, retirement stuff, all of that. So the tentative agreement, if ratified, will help VA's dedicated public servants continue delivering more care and more benefits to more veterans than ever before in our nation's history. It will also help VA better retain employees. Now, I'm going to stop right there. This is actually an important piece, especially if it's rolling into or affecting anything on the healthcare side, because the VA healthcare workers are grossly underpaid compared to their civilian equivalents. So what happens is they're always short on doctors and nurses and that type of stuff, because they could go across the street and work for a big medical facility and get paid much more. So it's really shortchanging us as the veterans who seek care from the VA. Not all of us go outside of the VA and get care. There's many of us that is our sole healthcare provider, right? So with that, let's go ahead and jump back into it. So it says here that it'll help retain employees, hire more quickly, and add the staff required to implement the PACT Act, the largest expansion of VA healthcare and benefits in decades. The tentative agreement is subject to final ratification by AFGE members, then VA agency head review, which will take place over the coming months. This is a part of VA's broader efforts to support bargaining unit employees and execute the administration's executive order on worker organizing and empowerment. So whatever. More than 79% of all VA public servants are bargaining unit employees. So almost 80% are represented by a union. And VA is committed to supporting them as they serve our nation's veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. Here's a quote by the Secretary of the VA. This tentative agreement is a great step forward that will help us hire, support, retain, and onboard VA's great public servants, which in turn will help us better serve our nation's veterans, said the Secretary. A unionized VA workforce is a strong VA workforce, and we are proud to work with AFGE to continue delivering world-class care and benefits to veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. The tentative agreement follows three key agreements VA made with the National Federation of Federal Employees in February. Over the past 2 years, VA has taken several critical steps to support bargaining unit employees, including 1. Reestablishing the National Partnership Council, a forum to open communication between labor leaders and VA leadership. 2. Restoring official time for doctors, nurses, physicians' assistants, and other Title 38 employees, meaning that these employees can use work hours to advocate on behalf of their bargaining unit coworkers. 3. Establishing yearly and semi-annual labor management meetings with VA union partners. And 4, including the union's pre-decision in critical employee-centric decisions, so being involved in the decisions, such as the creation of the VHA Reboot Task Force to address employee burnout. So in other words, we're working more collaboratively as VA leadership, management, non-union with the bargaining unit or union to I guess better assist and work with the employees that are represented by that bargaining unit. The tentative agreement with AFGE will help VA continue hiring staff and delivering care and benefits to veterans at an unprecedented rate. VHA, which is Veterans Healthcare Administration, welcomed 22,759 new hires in the first 5 months of fiscal year 2023. Remember that the federal fiscal year starts in October, so that'd be October, November, December, January, February, first 5 months, that's pretty big. Anytime anybody talks about the number of new hires, my next question is how many of that was due to attrition, right? So, I mean, if you lost 22,000 people and then you hired 22,759, you only have a net gain of 759. So what is the real number, right? How many people left for whatever reason, whether they retired, whether they moved to a better opportunity, or they just hated where they worked, right? Regardless of the reason for the attrition, what is that number, right? How much are we filling the holes, right? Because you also have to look in the mirror a little bit as an organization and see where you need to plug holes if you're losing a lot of people, right? There could be an issue. So I highly doubt that 22,759 were all 100% add to the VA organization. In any case, first 5 months. So that's a lot of hires. For the first 5 months of the fiscal year. The highest hiring level in the history of VA for that period of time. And again, I go back to how much of that was filling the empty spots, right? The empty seats that people walk down on, and how many of those were actually newly created positions. This puts VHA on track to achieve its 52,000 new hire goal for this fiscal year. VBA, which is the Veterans Benefits Administration, total workforce has grown by 1,369 employees, 5.27% in the first 4 months of fiscal year 23. It's interesting how they have changed the numbers, right? So in one case, they're just talking about new hires, and in the other, so that excludes promotions, right? It's just a newly hired person into the Veterans Healthcare Administration. And then on the VBA side, they're talking about the total workforce addition, right? So brand new positions created, adding to the workforce. So it's funny how they use two different numbers. Usually you'd want to stay in the same mindset for a compare and contrast, but you can't compare these two because they're completely different. So VBA's total workforce has grown by 1,369 employees, a 5.27% increase in the first 4 months of fiscal year 23, the highest growth rate in the past 20 years. These efforts build on additional hiring and retention efforts from fiscal year 2022, including rising wages for nearly 10,000 VA nurses and reducing burnout. So with that, that takes us to the end of this article. Interesting nonetheless, and it did kind of pose a couple questions in there, for me anyway. But the bottom line is that we do need to bolster some aspects up with the VA in order to provide better service to us as the veterans who utilize, and the whole reason of the existence of the VA is to serve us as veterans and our spouses and our survivors. So very important stuff. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.